Just 11 days until the midterm election on November 8th. Several state offices are on the ballot, including Secretary of State. The Secretary is California's chief election officer, oversees campaign financing and lobbying, and the incorporation of businesses. Facing off this November is the current Secretary of State, Democrat Shirley Weber, and her Republican challenger, Rob Bernosky. And Rob joins us here in studio to talk about his candidacy. Thanks so much for being here to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Tell us why you are running for this office and what you're expecting and what you're hoping for if you're elected.
Well, I'm running because I care deeply about California. I think that we are a train wreck right now, no pun intended, with high-speed rail. But look, we pay the highest taxes, but we have the worst level of services. We have the highest poverty rate, and we just keep throwing more money at the issue. And we keep raising the tax rates, with no effect on the homelessness and poverty situation. Our schools do very poorly, and we pay double the price for fuel and electricity. And quite frankly, a lot of people are leaving because of it. We've lost so many people that we lost a congressional seat recently. And I would prefer to stay in California. I love it, and I really want my 3 adult children to be able to enjoy California. But the fact of the matter is, even though they're all college educated and gainfully employed, the ability of them to have a house like they were raised in a good neighborhood is very, very tiny, and we need to change that. And the way I want to change that as Secretary of State is to get more people participating in the process. First of all, we have to make it easier for the average person to run for office. It's very complicated and convoluted and bureaucratic. And number 2 is we have to get voter participation rate up. Only 37% of California's voters, registered voters, participated in the primary election. That's a shame. If you want better schools, vote for better school board members. If you want lower taxes, vote for a different legislature. If you want a more business-friendly California and bring industry back with all those middle-class jobs, change who you're voting for. Forget about the party, forget about the labels. Vote for those who are literally best suited to bring California back to being the golden state instead of the broken state.
And it happens at the local level, as you and I were talking about. Let's talk about the partisan issue in the fact that you are a Republican in a very blue state and a statewide election. There's certainly a challenge that comes with that. What would you tell people about your position as a Republican and why you think you can work across the aisle to make things better for Californians?
So first of all, to address the latter part of that, I work with Democrats all the time. You could reach out to our county board of supervisors, our city council members, school board members, people in our community. We work together to get things done successfully, and I have a proven track record, of that. But the most important thing is you've got to take the national labels off Republicans in California. I could care less right now about Donald Trump and what he's doing and the big lie and things like that. Our problems are right here, and Donald Trump doesn't have anything to do with California. Roe versus Wade is another big thing that we get labeled with, but no one has lost any abilities in the state of California to obtain the health care that they want. So things like Prop 1, they make it to be a crisis zone and so forth, but it really isn't. Let's talk about schools. Let's talk about tax rates. Let's talk about fuel costs and electricity costs and the availability of water. Isn't it government's job to make sure that we have enough water for homes and industry, and to make sure that we have a criminal justice system that puts criminals behind bars so that you and I can walk down the street safely? And isn't it government's responsibility to have free and fair elections? That's what I want to, help.
Yeah, let's talk about that because, the title of Secretary of State has gotten so much talk over the last couple of years because of the big lie. This lie that the 2020 election was not on the up and up, which it was, has been proven dozens and dozens of times. So what is your perspective on that? I think you've kind of laid it out a little bit here, but how important is it that people know that California's elections are on the up and up and that elections across America are very much secure?
Well, addressing California, I don't think that and there was enough voter fraud anywhere that would have overturned the election and definitely not changed the outcome of the presidential election. Where I get concerned about is on local ballot measures and local issues where things are often in a lot of communities and counties in the state of California are just decided by 200 or 300 votes, and it's driven by, you know, a few that have a huge amount of passion. Combining that with how we vote today by mail, so on and so forth, where signature verification is very, very important. Meanwhile, we're squeezing county budgets so that they don't have enough people to do that signature verification. I think that there could be, you know, there's avenues of nefariousness and sloppiness that we need to make sure. Just like in a school, nobody wants to believe that kids are cheating or college students are cheating, but they take the steps necessary to make sure that it doesn't occur. I think that's the tact I would take as Secretary of State.
And last, I want to ask you about moderation, because again, you've mentioned this here, but as a Republican in a blue state, you know, people do label you, and people do think that people believe everything that the other side believes. How important is moderation in our politics today in California to, I guess, unite us back together as a country and as a state?
Well, absolutely. I don't know if I would use the word moderation. Listen, I am a Republican. I believe in lower taxes, a strong national defense, and a border that's meaningful. But I also live in California, and I respect everybody's opinion. I know why we want to take care of the homeless. I know why we want to take care of the farm workers and things like that, and I'm very much willing to work with people on that. But, you know, and the California Republican Party is just as divided as the nation. You know, we have the hard right, and then we have the, you know, the center rights, and I'm somewhere in between there. But nothing's going to change the fact of the problems that I've outlined: the poor education, the high taxes. Look, let me just make this really personal. I have a grandson now, and every weekend we drive 100 miles round trip to be with him. And I'm at the income level, it doesn't change anything. But for those families that are of lesser means, especially the ones that are picking our crops and working the fast food, that price of gasoline and the cost of electricity, they're not able to do those things. And that's what we need to change California for. And the Republican Party needs to do some soul searching, and I'm willing to be a part of it, win or lose, to help reform it so that we can become relevant in the state of California, sell what our values are, so that your children and my children can enjoy the Golden State.
I think a lot of people can relate to that perspective. Rob, thank you so much. Best of luck. The election 11 days away. We appreciate you coming in to talk to us today. Right. And by the way, we have reached out to Secretary of State Shirley Weber for an interview, and she has yet to respond to our request. But a reminder, Fox 5 is your local election headquarters. You can watch all of our interviews with our candidates on our website. Just go to fox5sandiego.com/election. Rob, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.